All right, let's make our lantern. So you're gonna get your big bag of clay. You're gonna open it up without damaging the bag at all. You wanna keep that bag pristine. Okay, and then you're gonna take the fishing line that you have. This one is a braided fishing line that I've put onto a couple of little rings, but yours will just be a green piece if you have the ones that I sent home. And here's what I want you to do. Don't just cut off a random chunk that you then have to fight and flatten. Cut off a piece that's already gonna be pretty close to what you want. So I'm coming in and I'm just running my wire through, okay, all the way through. And I'm just taking off this beautiful chunk. Okay, and I'm gonna set that on top of the fabric that I'm using to roll out. All right, if you don't use fabric, it's gonna stick to your table surface and it's not gonna wanna come off. So make sure that you're actually using a piece of fabric. If you were rolling directly on a wooden table that was not finished with any kind of sealant, it probably wouldn't stick to that. So if you have that, good for you. If you don't, you'll do this way. All right, so there are a couple of ways to get started. One is just kind of flinging it out. So you'd hold your fabric on one side and just kind of fling it. It's like this motion as you drop it that will help fling it a little bit. So you can see I'm like holding this and I'm like, and that got it to be like instantaneously like a little bit longer and flatter. If you don't feel like being dramatic, don't do it that way, that's fine. Okay, so I'm gonna put my fabric on top and I'm leaving a little space over here and a little space over here, but I'm trying to go for two pieces. My first piece is, I'm aiming for 12 by 4, so I need this to become longer because right now it's less than that. And then I'm gonna roll 2 more that are a 6 and a 1/4 inch circle. So this will be my first one. So I'm gonna start in the middle, roll out, and then in the middle and roll out to that direction. You can also, of course, use anything that you have that approximates a rolling pin. You could use a wine bottle, you could use a Nalgene recyclable drink bottle, you could use just about anything. I went for my heavy duty roller because my wrists are too old for this. All right, and I'll keep checking inside my fabric. So it's gotten a little bit thinner now, but not quite thin enough for what I want. Okay, I've got a wooden roller so it won't stick to this, so I can't afford to just roll it. When we do art at school, we actually have a machine that we can roll our clay through that makes beautiful slabs. It's called a slab roller, and I really miss it right now because it's wonderful. It makes really even slabs without breaking a sweat. All right, so this is starting to get a bit thinner. I can tell that this end is definitely thin enough. I want to work from this central bit to go down. Yes, I am working on a rolling part. That is adding to the excitement. How's my thickness? That's about where I want it. It's about as thick as my pinky finger right now, so that's perfect. And now I'm gonna set that aside and I'm going to roll out my top and bottom. All right, so I'm gonna get some more clay. do the same thing that I did before, where I'm gonna cut a part that's already about the thickness that I want it. All right, I can do the same thing with this one, where I kind of give it a little toss around. Things go flying. You can also thin it out a little bit by hand by pushing on it. See, I've got a little break forming here. I'm gonna just rip into that. I don't want that, and I'd have to wedge it all back together. So I may end up just getting one little piece out of this. We'll see if I need to roll another one to make my lid and my base, but I just need to start off with either my lid or my base. Okay, I'm trying to make it an even thickness, so you can already tell that this side over here is still quite thick, and this side over here has gotten thinner. Okay, and I'm trying to see like how big, so that would be one, and I think I'm gonna just rip that off and come back to it to make my other part, so I can focus on this. Focusing on making it as even as I can get it, because this will be the bottom part that the candle sits on. All right, and that's gonna be good enough for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and center my template, and I'm gonna cut out some parts now. So I would want to take either a cutting tool like this or a needle tool. Either one would work just fine. I'm gonna hold my template where I want it. I forgot to smooth it. So I'm gonna smooth it first. I can use a rib tool like this, or I could use my little class issued piece of plastic, and I'm gonna smooth out the texture. I don't want the texture of the fabric. This will also help to make it nice and compressed. So you're taking all those clay platelets and compressing them together. All right, so now I'm gonna take my template, I'm gonna hold it in place, and I'm gonna cut it. Since I'm cutting this on top of fabric, it will be very easy to pick it up, but I don't wanna cut a hole in my fabric. So I'm going around and I'm being kind of gentle with my edges. All right, and then I'm gonna take my extra clay, put it back in my bag, because that is good clay that I can continue using. All right, now I wanna take some kind of cutting board, or you could take, if you have a banding wheel from me from school, you could use the fabric to lift it up and kind of dump it upside down. And then you can just place it on your banding wheel, try to aim for the center. Okay, and then we're gonna reuse this. So we're gonna set this slab aside, set our template aside, and then we're gonna come back to that longer piece that we had made earlier. All right, so we're gonna grab that, and we're gonna do the same thing that we did to our other piece. We're gonna smooth it. And on this piece, it's pretty important that there not be ridges or lines that we don't want to show. So I've done this side. I'm gonna flip it over, and I'm gonna do this side as well. All right, so I've got that nice and smooth, and then I'm gonna take the template that I made, the 4x12. I wonder if I could fit, no, I can't fit a whole nother circle out of the same slab. So I put it on down, hold it in place, and I just go ahead and cut. Let's say that I was using paper because I didn't have any cardboard. You'd want to take anything with a hard straight edge and put it on top of your paper and cut along that so that you had something firm to support your line, because if you cut crooked lines, it'll make it very challenging to get your piece to fit together. All right, and then I'm gonna once again take all of that spare clay and I'm gonna set that aside to be reused. All right, and then since I'm once again working on my fabric, I can actually use that fabric to lift it off the table and kind of just dump it back on top of my template. And then I'm gonna grab the base that I had made, okay, and bring that over. And now I'm going to, in the next video, talk about putting it together.